So tell me about this, Mom.
So the wisteria came from my grandfather's house. I remember being there when he was down on his hands and knees digging up one of the suckers that came out and bringing it here to transplant. And if you look at pictures from different years, it was much more contained. It was growing on just a little archway there, which there is no visible archway anymore. But the problem is, it chokes out everything near it, including fencing and trellises. That's why we're not taking it with us, because we don't want to deal with it. We took the sundial off of that cement stone in the corner. Find some other support for it. Out in this yard, there was a really tall maple tree right there. And it had, I don't know if you remember, but it had a swing on it.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was really only there for the grandchildren. It wasn't there when I was growing up.
I found it very distressing when they got rid of the swing.
Yeah. And there was a maple tree here at one time. I remember when I was in high school, it was glorious in the fall, and I tried to paint it. I couldn't do it justice. It was frustrating. There is a pathway. My father made a drawing for a school project. He drew his house and wrote about his house. In the drawing, you could see the walkway down the front, which was all overgrown by grass when I was growing up. But it had flowers planted on either side of it. And I said, oh, I've got to dig up the grass and expose the stones and plant flowers. My mother did not support me, and then she thought I was nuts. So doing it by myself, I never really got it done.
So did anybody ever enter the store?
The mailman brought the mail here every day.
And when you had friends over for the first time, did they go to the store?
I don't think so.
Oh.
When Mom was old, we needed to get her out. She couldn't walk very well. We drove the car right up to the store. It was only a couple of steps down. That was Eric's idea. George's flag sitting here. My father was very patriotic. And back in the day when everybody had those hollow plastic Christmas decorations, we had those. Big lights. That would put the outdoor Christmas lights up. I've never been one to do that, but he used to do it every year for the Christmas tree.
Entrance to the basement.
Yeah, yeah. I took a picture of that. So the porch was not here when my grandparents lived here. I think I remember my parents putting that on. I must have been like junior high or high school. And my mom, even when it didn't have any furnishings and it was just like an empty space, my mom would sit out here because it was nice and cool with the air blowing through.
All right.
So this is the entrance to Kinney Electronics Laboratory. I think he had another business here with a different name beforehand. I can't remember what it was, but this is where he repaired CB radios and police scanners and that kind of thing.
Do you have a lot of customers?
Yeah, he did a lot for police officers on their off-duty motorcycles. They would ride together like a motorcycle club, and he would do their radios for them. And he would also install car radios into cars, into dashboards.
Nice.
So I just learned that this cement, which I always thought was odd, in the middle of the driveway, was a shuffleboard court that my grandmother used to play on. But when we were little, we had a roller coaster that was just child size. It would come down, the cart would go running down the driveway. Roller coaster and a merry-go-round and things like that, which came in handy when we did the Boomtown Carnival to raise money for charity.
Tell us about that.
Oh, well, my neighbors and I put on this little carnival, and we charged, I think, 3 cents for a game or a ride. I dressed up as a clown in my Halloween clown outfit and went around and
Just because you were bored, something to do?
Something to do. Oh, they talked about it on Boomtown, which was the local television show. And just raising money for, I think, muscular dystrophy or something.
You raised like 90 cents?
$3.
Oh, nice. Cool.
You want me to react?
Yeah.
Okay. What's that door thing that looks like it would lift?
Well, this is a dumbwaiter. I don't remember my mother using it very much, but this was so you could drive up with your groceries or what have you and put them on here. And right now it's locked. There's a key for that. And it would go up to the kitchen. And then you'd pull them out of the kitchen. There's a switch to lift it up from the kitchen area.
read
Neat,
them.
right? I know, that sounds great. It's locked?
It's either locked or it's jammed. Violets would come up all on their own, and every year I was so proud of my violet garden because it always looked great.
That's cute.
I think sometimes we even sat on each other's laps and did that. Go pretty far when each of you was
At the
putting
swing
your
set.
energy in.
What about this front steps? Or back steps? Got any stories about
I
this?
have found out from looking at old photos, it wasn't always configured this way. I don't think it always had the two sets of steps at 90-degree angles. It might have been going off the other way.
I don't think I've ever gone up that side of the steps.
Yeah, I don't really think I have either.
Should we go in?
Oh, sure. Oh, it's already open. Dad must have used the key in the garage. About the wood stove.
Let's hear it.
So this wood stove was not here when I was little, but my parents put it in maybe when I was in college, and they used it as a source of heat. But it was kind of a joke that they would say everybody in town could tell when the kiddies were running their fireplace because the front door would be open to let the smoke out.
So it didn't work like it's supposed to?
Well, you had to warm up the flue first, and people were impatient and didn't wait. And the other story is that on the outside of the chimney for the fireplace, there's a place where you can scrape out the ashes periodically. And our cat was really dumb about where she had kittens, and one time she had them there, and we had to rescue them out of there because when they're born, their eyes are closed, but we wanted to get them out of the ashes before their eyes opened because I think that might have blinded them.
Oh.
This was our family room, and I don't know why it always had this sort of yellow orange design, because Mom never liked orange. And nobody knows why there are those African masks on the wall. Nobody.
They weren't particularly into Africa or anything?
No, there's nothing else in their house suggesting why they're there, and that anybody went anywhere and got them. We don't know. This, that's the laundry chute that comes down from the 3rd floor and the 2nd floor. And every time we had family over for the 4th of July reunion, somebody would want to send a kid down, but I don't think anybody was ever dumb enough to do that. And we've got this built-in desk, which looks amazing when it flips up and the desk becomes part of the wall. It's really nice work. My dad made that, I believe. And I love the way that the projector could go in that cupboard and shine through onto the screen in the living room.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yes. Yeah, so the intercom, this is the old tech, right? My father was always on the cutting edge of tech. But you could call down to the basement. So if my father was working down in the basement and Mom wanted to let him know that dinner was ready, she could call him. You could call up on the 3rd floor where our bedrooms were, anywhere in the house. The only thing is, when you're up on the 3rd floor, it wasn't two-way. They could listen to you or talk to you, but you had no way of initiating or not responding,
Yep, Mom bought that. You got that fire escape ladder for college, right?
Jeff bought it for my mother, and then when I went off to college, I took it because I was living in a slum apartment with a 3rd floor unit. You've heard the story many times about how Mom redecorated the kitchen when I was in college, and she asked my opinion about some samples of wallpaper that Dave Millard had given her to choose from, and I did not like any of them. Her style was not my style. She liked bold, dramatic colors and prints, and I liked, nice florals. So I didn't like any of them, and she took affront to that and said, well, I'm going to get some more samples, and this time I'm not going to show you any of them. And I said, that's fine. It's your wall. You do what you want.
I like it.
I came home from college. I walked in. I saw this room. And I saw the dining room, which was redone. And I literally went out the door to make sure I'd come in the right house.
That's funny. And this is where the table used to be.
The kitchen table.
I remember eating a sweaty apple at the kitchen table.
A sweaty apple?
Well, there's just pictures of me and Hunter were like really sweaty eating an apple.
You can see the old wallpaper behind there.
Yeah, that's
I kind of
cool.
like that.
Yeah. So that was when you were a little kid, you had that up here?
Yeah. So the other day I pulled this out. Dad didn't know this was here. And I
Step stool?
used it to go up and check in the cabinet, see if there's anything up there.
Yeah, that's good.
That is cool.
It's very thoughtful. My dad knew that Mom was short, but unfortunately it only works for that one cabinet.
Yeah.
Show us all the built-ins.
Well, the problem is I left it up and I ended up getting a gouge.
Oh.
Yeah, the other built-ins, I love the cabinet for the mixer. It's really gross now, but if you pull this forward, it pops up and locks in place.
That's cool.
So your mixer is at counter height. When you're done using it, it hides away in the cabinet. You don't have to look at it. Dad would like that because he doesn't like our mixer taking up counter space. And Dad didn't know about the spice cabinet.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
I don't think I knew about that.
And this is where the dumbwaiter comes out.
Yeah, let's see it. That's cool.
Yeah. And I always said I wanted to have cabinets like this to store my cookie sheets and stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then this is the pass-through into the dining room. And the drawer opens on the dining room side or the kitchen side. Unfortunately, it's a terrible drawer. You need one person on either side to help it go through.
And the door opens up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah.
Anything else? Secrets?
Any other secrets? Well, she always had a top and bottom oven, which was cool because, unlike me, she actually would use it. You know, she was a good cook and baker, made lots of stuff. And they were one of the first families in town, I think, to get a microwave. They had an Amana radar range. It was huge and sat on that counter over there.
And your mom always cooked stuff, or did you ever cook stuff?
Yep. She had me start with things like lunches, making sandwiches for the guys in the family. And I never made my first dinner for my high school boyfriend. I wanted to make him a chicken dinner. So she helped me plan that out, cook that.
Cool.
Jeff's friends burned himself on because nobody has a scalding hot water tap, but my father had it, and I don't know that they ever used it except my dad.
To burn their children's friends.
He put marshmallow fluff under there, put a little bit of the hot water in to make marshmallow topping for an ice cream sundae.
Oh, that's nice. Does it still work?
Yeah, I think so.
Should we?
I'm not going to stick my hand under it to test how hot it is. Jeff's friend did that, and he was
How do you do it?
pressed down on it. Maybe it doesn't
I don't know how to press down.
All right.
Go.
Oh! Dad's taking down the chandelier. Sorry.
The chandelier is down,
Maybe it's not a good time
which
to be
added
looking
a
at
good
it.
effect to this room, but
I think it's fine. It looks bright
in
enough.
days of yore.
So my dad was very indulgent of my mom's collection of glass and china, so he built this cabinet with lighting for displaying red, white, and blue glass. That's the colors of the room. She used to have a red carpet in here, it got replaced. And when I was growing up, the formal dining table was here, and the black drop leaf table was in that inset there, and the kids sat over there. And my story is that when we had Thanksgiving or something like that, I would be clearing off the table at the end because that was my job, and I would be like, "Hey, we had cranberry sauce. Nobody told me."
Aw.
So, but for family dinners every night, you just eat at the regular table with your parents.
No, not if,
Really?
not if we couldn't all fit around the table. Eric and I would sit over there,
Oh, the little kids.
the little kids.
That sucks.
And, well, it's just you wouldn't know what was all the food. They didn't always tell
You
you
guys didn't have
everything.
enough room for everyone to sit together on a regular
Not if
dinner?
everybody was here. We weren't always all here because Jeff was off in the Navy for a while or off at college. Betsy was off at college. Ralph was off at college. You know, there were different people off at different times.
Yeah.
I have a lot of intricate details, like the handles and the light
Yeah.
sockets match the wallpaper.
Well, I'm pretty sure that this was all Dave Millard's work. So he designed this room and the living room. So this is a nice touch having the red inset on the handle. I was noticing that yesterday myself, Maddie. That was kind of cool.
right.
I wonder why they bought so many replacement globes. So.
They're not all identical, actually.
Oh. Okay. So this room was definitely the work of Dave Millard, who spent some time living in Japan. So this was designed to look like a Japanese home with rice paper shoji screens that slid across. If they're closed, they obscure the view from the street. My mom's favorite saying, she came home from work and we had the lights on and she'd say, "This house is lit up like a speakeasy."
Which makes no sense.
Makes no sense. But underneath, inset to the two sides were the clipped speakers that Jeff keeps talking about. He ripped those out.
Out in the garage right
And
now.
then there is storage built into that window seat for the bridge table and chairs.
Cool.
There's the light.
Oh yeah, up on the top, this is meant to look like a blue sky with a white cloud with lighting shining out from behind the cloud.
Nice to have, well, they must have 8-foot ceilings here. They could play with stuff like that.
Yeah.
Most
Mom.
houses have 7 now.
Mom had that odd-shaped, custom-built sofa here. It was originally in yellow silk, and we were not allowed to sit out here. It was only for company. And Dad was going to make a custom hi-fi table to fit behind there, but he never got around to it. That's the mock-up in plywood that is painted black, and it never got replaced. The phrase my mother used was, "The cobbler's children have no shoes."
And you had Christmas out here?
Yep, so the tree would be over here in this corner, and after we opened our gifts, Eric and I would make piles of our gifts and take a photo of us in front of all of our gifts.
Nice.
So much thread.
Yeah,
I'm never gonna have the binding thread.
that's right. You're welcome to take thread. I'm bringing it all with me. And the chairs, they had the chairs and the table that had the bamboo look from the 60s. And then the piano was over here, the one that we have at our house now came from here. And we found the bill of sale in the basement. So the piano was right there. And there used to be, I think, shears before this room was redecorated. And we had kittens, and the kittens one time went shh down the
Ugh.
stairs. So, yeah, kittens were fun.
Anything else that comes to mind about the living room?
Just that we would sit here to watch the slideshows. Dad would project the slides onto the screen, which pulled down from up there. You can see where it is.
We did that at the funeral,
Yeah.
at the
Yeah, that was the
memorial.
last time.
Open
used
up
it.
the shoji screens, pull down the slide screen, and
A lot of slides.
watch slides. So many slides. We have to get those digitized.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, those were very. That's funny. Those were helpful for my dad when he developed Alzheimer's, and his friends wanted him to continue playing bridge as long as he could. They got these cubes to put on the table so that he would be able to know what the trump was.
Nice.
He used to play his record albums here. He had the Bill Cosby albums and Tom Lehrer albums and Herb Alpert, the Tijuana Brass, and classical. That's all I remember him having.
And these beads,
Yeah.
they tell a story.
Yeah. So I remember when these were being put in, and before this pole was really anchored, Ralph came down the stairs and tried to swing around the pole. This banister never was here. And he ended up in the emergency room that day because it came out and sort of
Ooh.
stabbed him in the leg.
Thanks.
And then one time Hunter yanked on one of these and beads came off, and that was a topic of conversation for years after that.
Mm-hmm.
We have the cubbies here. There weren't quite enough, I remember, the family to each have their own, but the idea was that your mail would go in there, and when Mom was tidying up the house, if she found things that belonged to you, she'd put it in there and then remind you, take your stuff upstairs.
Nice.
Dad said he thought this looked like a library because all the magazines were on display.
It does.
And then there were reference books here and here. So when I had to do a report, I'd say, what do we have books on? I guess I'll do it on Egypt.
Yeah. Forget learning something new.
That's right. Well, I wouldn't have read the books before that. They were my mom's books.
All right.
All kinds of cookbooks and all kinds of other books up here. And that was always entertaining to see what was on display this month.
Mom had a massive cookbook collection.
Yes.
She had
There's still
cookbooks
quite a bit
here,
of it in the other room.
cookbooks out there, and for a while, she had towering stacks of cookbooks in what became her study on the second floor. When she went into rehab, Betsy wanted me to clear out the cookbooks because it was a safety hazard in that study.
I think this
And
is
I
Eric's.
couldn't, yeah, it is, honey, we're recording.
Okay, sorry.
And the cookbooks were so numerous that I didn't know how to get rid of them. I was putting them in boxes and stacking up the boxes, but it wasn't helping because they were already in such tall towers that it didn't save anything. Well, Betsy said, that's because you're putting all of the books in the boxes. And I said, oh, well, I don't feel comfortable throwing out Mom's cookbooks. She said, well, I can do it.
Yeah.
Come in this flat. I have nothing more to say.
Surely there must be something. Heading upstairs.
Yeah.
What about your old bedroom?
When I was a little kid, I shared this room with Eric. It used to be a rose patterned wallpaper, but when we were older, Dave Millard came and redesigned this room too. So the idea was you're supposed to be looking at these from a child's vantage point. And these are supposed to be recognizable as animals. And I always would ask people, can you tell me what the animals are?
Huh. Is this a dog, maybe?
No, but I'll give you a hint. What's in front of it? It's gonna eat that.
I feel like it's a butterfly.
Yeah, something like that, like a dragonfly.
That does, but nothing eats dragonflies.
Well, it's supposed to be a turtle.
What?
Oh, okay.
No way is that a
I
turtle.
had a hard time.
What is that?
I don't know. It doesn't look like any turtle I
I
ever
don't
knew.
think I could guess what any of these are.
That one you can.
Mouse.
It's a mouse, yeah.
Rooster.
Rooster.
Dog.
Dog. And it had a ball. See?
Okay, that makes sense.
Well, I think they're kind of neat.
They're definitely
Well, I'm
interesting.
glad you're recording
It's-
it because nobody else had a room like this.
It's weird that they didn't ask you about it, though. That's
I know.
strange.
I was never asked for decor. So these are each pieces of wood that have this heavy duty felt tacked on over it. So if you wanted to, you could take these down and put them up somewhere else.
I don't want to.
I used to like sleeping in this room because the windows are on both sides. It was a little bit scary when I was young, but the cars would come down the street and go past, and the headlights would go around the ceiling, as each car went by. When I was little, I knew I had a neighbor a couple doors down who was the same age as me, and I used to think that if I knocked on my door, he could hear me in his house. I know he
You're a
didn't
dumb
really
little
could.
kid, huh?
I just had this fantasy thought, yeah.
That's cute.
I love the window seats in here. There's a lot of storage underneath. And I always had this idea that someday, like now, when we're cleaning out the house and it's going away, I would find the glasses I lost in 3rd grade. Because I could have sworn they were somewhere in this room. I kept thinking if I peel up this carpet, they're in there. I don't know why.
Carpet glasses
Well,
shaped lump.
I had 2 pairs of Harlequin glasses, one pink, one blue. And
It'd be funny if you started wearing them again if you find one.
they wouldn't do much to
So,
guard my vision.
did
now.
Grammakin sew in here actually?
Oh yeah, she did. She had a sewing machine and then she inherited the Bernina from her aunt. So she had 2 sewing machines. She did a lot of sewing. Made clothes for me, made clothes for herself, tailored. She would tailor the clothes she inherited from her Aunt Ellen because Ellen was a lot taller and bigger than she was. Oh yeah, she used to get these monthly, all of these mailbox news magazines, selling you the tools to do all this fancy cake decorating. So these show you all these inspirational pictures of fancy decorated cakes.
Wow.
Tell you how to recreate them. And then these decorating magazines show these wonderful rooms you can make according to the vibe of the 70s. And they're downright scary looking at them now.
Did you like sharing a room with Eric when you were little?
We had fun. There were 2 twin beds in here, and we would jump from one to the other, which was strictly against the rules. I'm surprised we didn't break the beds.
And did you also have your play up here, like
Well, yeah, we had that desk in here. There was the 2 benches joined with a desk in the middle with a pass-through drawer. And there's a picture of us somewhere in one of the slides of us coloring at that desk.
So when you were little, you didn't really play downstairs. Everything like you played upstairs
Right,
in your
exactly.
bedrooms.
So this was plenty of room for that.
Yeah.
And we had those two, the wooden structure that's in our garage right now. One of them got tossed out. The other one's still there, I think, is shelving against the back wall of the garage. Well, side
Okay,
wall.
yeah.
Anyway, those were built, I think, by my dad. There were two of them, one for each of us. So it had an opening with a knee hole for a desk. There was a blackboard, a cork board, and a cabinet inside the door where you could put your scrap paper and your art supplies. And we each had one of those to do
That's cool.
art.
This is a very spacious room.
It is.
If
It's
this
big
was-
enough for 3 kids, really.
If this was just my bedroom, I'd be all set.
I mean, all that storage over there, all that closet, built-in closet space with drawers underneath.
Yeah. The house doesn't look that huge from the outside, but it's very spacious.
It's 5 bedrooms. 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, 5 bedrooms. Only 1.5 baths though. So considering there were 7 people in the family, that's not really enough.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we were spaced out and not all here at the same time. This used to be Ralph's room when I was growing up. I remember every now and then he would clean his room and he would find stuff that he didn't want anymore, and Eric and I would be thrilled. He'd give us old GIMP from camp, things like that.
This is a tiny room.
Yeah, I think the desk he used to have in here is in the basement now, that wooden one with the stickers all over it. I don't know where this desk came from.
So Dad, do you remember the first time Mom brought you here?
Maybe. Why?
Because I just wanted to record it for posterity.
First time I came here, Bumpa really took to me. He showed me everything. He showed me his basement. I don't remember it too well, but he mentioned his secret hiding place down there and how he knew I was an antique collector. So he showed me some of the old things and he said, I've got this really rare coin in this secret hiding place.
Did you find where it was?
I think he sold it.
Oh.
Or it's still in the house somewhere.
Maybe. So he liked that you had an antique connection?
He liked that I liked old things. He liked that I was an engineer. He liked that I was from MIT because he was WPI. So it was sort of we had a thing going
So
there.
he approved of you for his daughter?
I can't remember if I asked.
This was when Mom and you were dating, or?
Yes.
And she was like, let me show you my home.
Might have been engaged at that point.
Oh. But you must
Can't
have met
remember.
them before you were engaged, right?
Probably. I don't remember what state I was in when we first visited here. But
Probably Massachusetts.
yes, right. And what else did he show me? He showed me a lot of old stuff. He was very, very proud of all his old antique tools and
And you're like,
devices and
you're
stuff.
like, yeah, I seen this. Kind
Genealogy. He showed me the genealogy. I didn't know anyone in it, but
of. Like, wow, this looks old.
it was pretty extensive. Yeah, good
Nice.
recording of history.
All
Yeah.
right.
And this little desk area, he was very proud of that too. He designed it, I guess. It's very efficient. I can appreciate the engineering that went into designing this. So
Nice.
he was a clever guy. Bread boxes before they had plastic bags to put their bread in.
Bread was in plastic bags in the 60s and 70s.
But I mean, that's where the bread box came from.
Okay.
You would keep it in a bread box because you didn't have any other infestation-proof thing to store.
So this is where the poker table was, right?
Look at that airplane. Also.
Oh yeah, the poker table was here. We have a photograph that I already gave Ann. The back bar was over against that wall. I have a video.
The
of my
pharmacy
dad
back
talking.
bar?
Yep, the soda fountain. The poker table was constructed by my grandfather. I think he used a commercial round table and put the ring around it with sections for each player to put their chips and cards and what have you in. I don't know the story of that desk. It's also old and growing mold.
And the wall art?
It's a nice
Wall
wooden
art.
desk, but
So these represent different members of the family and like what college they went to, what their story is. So WPI is my dad, so the light bulb indicates he was the smarty pants. Simmons was my mom. What's it got for a picture? Probably a book. She's a librarian. Yeah, it's an open book. And it says New Hampshire on it because they had the farm, New Hampshire farm on the book. KUA is Kimball Union Academy. That was my grandfather, my father's father. And it's got a hammer and saw because he was into building stuff. I think he made the ping pong table that we have. This is Mass College of Pharmacy, and it's got someone sawing wood because they fell asleep in class a lot.
Who's that?
That was my Uncle Alan. And this would be Nancy, Alan and Cliff's sister. And I should know what that stands for, and I cannot remember.
So if you didn't go to college, did you not get a pennant?
I think it's something normal school. And this, I think, means they talked a lot. The gramophone.
Okay. So if you didn't go to school, did you not get art? Oh.
This was the whole family, the three of them and their parents.
Oh, they made it before they had kids?
Well, it was the three siblings, Alan, Nancy, and so maybe.
I'm just saying, nothing here honors your
Well, it
dad's
honors my mom, and I wonder whether that might have been her, the normal school. I don't know who went there.
Okay.
What's on the other wall? It was the cards.
Cards.
That's where they played poker. That's probably what that's for.
This is the dark room?
Yep. And they did go in there, even despite the fact that the mice were living in there. So there was a red light in there for the dark room.
And anything else that you...
Lumber storage, wood storage.
Lumber.
Our cat had kittens in the wood pile once.
Yeah.
Not very bright, as I said. My dad used to have Kenny Electronics Pharmacy down here, and over here there was a counter where, maybe here, finished projects went, for later pickup. There was a workbench here that Dad took, and a workbench here that Eric gave to his friend. And this workbench had two vices on it. And this one had a stop on it, so it wouldn't open all the way. And Dave Montgomery was really intrigued by that. He thought it might have been set up with these two at right angles for the purposes of making like something that needed a mitered edge, like a photo frame or something like that. But my grandfather was a machinist. He had all kinds of tools. Dad can tell you more about
This is probably the oldest bench here. You can see in the day there was this one, that one, and that one. There were three of them. And they probably just, every generation got their own bench. Here is a weight for windows back in the day. They had a feature called self-raising, and basically it was a weight inside the wall that was countered against the window, so you could easily raise the window because this countered the weight of it. So if you go to old houses, before they had all these modern features, you'd find one of these for each window that would go up and down. And that was a convenience they added probably about 150 years ago, maybe.
Does Grandma's house have that?
Yep. Yeah, they did. Well, they actually had Indian shutters. Their house is old enough, so they had to worry about stuff like that way up in Maine. So they actually had shutters that you could pull, wooden shutters that were inset into the walls, and you could close them. And really old houses have stuff like that. Yeah, this is quite the interesting place here. Most of the tools have been picked over at this point.
I'm gonna try.
Ominous.